Welcome to All Set for Sunday, a podcast for busy and distracted Catholics to be a little more prepared for Sunday Mass. My name is Scott Williams. My co-host is Jeff Traylor. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Scott.
Let's just look down to see if we were wearing the same shirt. We're not.
We're not. No.
That's okay.
I do get nervous when I wear this shirt.
Why?
Because
That
I know
would
you
wear?
own it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's one of our brand shirts. And so
Mhm.
anytime I wear our shirts, I get a little nervous that somebody else in the building is going to be wearing the same shirt that day.
That's fair. Father Christian Rapp, how are you today?
I'm doing great.
Were you worried that we were going to be wearing the same shirt?
No, but I was just thinking that I because I work with a lot of other priests, I can't worry about whether or not we're wearing the same thing.
That's fair. Hey, Scott, look. He's here.
Hey.
He's here. He's with
I'm
us
here in person.
Thanks for
Yeah.
making the trip up.
Yeah.
Happy
We do
to-
appreciate
happy
it.
to do it. I've done it a few times and I like it.
I like it too.
We like when you're around.
Good to be here. Good to be in person.
So still at Jasper. How long are you at? Do you know how long you're going to be at Jasper?
It's a thing that gets renewed every year.
Because you're a Benedictine monk
Mhm.
from St. Meinrad Archabbey, correct?
Mhm.
But currently serving as a associate pastor,
Parochial
Mhm.
vicar.
parochial vicar.
Either phrase, term works.
Does it
title.
just depend on the diocese how you use it?
I think it's just kind of the person that technically according to canon law, we're all, I think, parochial vicars, but
Yeah.
I feel like parochial
but
vicars want to be called
a
parochial
lot
vicars.
of a lot of people don't know what that means or don't care to know what that means. So a lot of bulletins will just say associate pastor.
Yeah.
And that's fine with me.
Great. All right. You ready for the 2-minute drill, Jeff?
I think so.
Cool.
Yeah, it's 15th Sunday in Ordinary Time. We're here. Is that the right one?
Yeah.
Everybody, I got nervous looks from you both.
I always get nervous. Like, did I prepare for the right one?
So our first reading comes from Deuteronomy.
Dude.
Dude,
Aronomy.
the dudes. So Moses is basically telling us, like, look, God's commandments are not some like cryptic message, right? This isn't like some treasure map that if you can like secretly solve it, you're gonna figure this out. You don't have to like scale the heavens or dive really deep into these commandments to figure them out. It's there. He says the word is very near to you, in your mouth and in your heart, that you may observe it. It's a beautiful message because he's saying that like obedience is not out of reach. Like this isn't a super complicated thing. Here's just do these things, like just like you say them, just like they come out of your mouth, and live these out every day. So even first thing when you wake up, before your morning coffee, whatever you got to do, like make sure that
As I drink my morning coffee.
yes. Our responsorial psalm. Okay, we have 2 psalm options
Are
this week.
either one of them a banger?
Turn to the Lord in your need and you will live.
Meh.
Meh. I had a full meh this weekend. Sorry, I'm distracted. That was a tangent on my part, but I was listening to an entire church. We went to a 7 a.m. mass, and so I was listening to an entire church with no music, just including the priest not be able to like remember all the way through the psalm every time.
Let all the earth cry
And no
out
music.
to God with
music.
joy.
The hardest thing is if the lector or whoever's doing it, they don't repeat it,
Yeah.
and
I find it really hard when they
look
don't
at
do
you,
this.
They look at you like, come on, don't you remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really
It's
long.
it's your guys' turn. Yeah.
All right.
Your words, Lord, are spirit and life. I don't know that either is a banger.
So
Yeah.
that's more of a banger.
That one, that
Yeah.
one is better. But are you preaching on either of those, Father? No. Okay.
Maybe a little bit on turn to the Lord in your need.
Oh,
Maybe a little bit.
a little bit, little teaser. Turn to the Lord in
Un
your need,
poquito.
and you will live.
Yeah.
All right. Our second reading then comes from Colossians. So this passage is this like mic drop about who Jesus is, right? Very poetic, very beautifully written. But it says here, like, he is the image of the invisible God. He was the OG there before everything existed. In him, all things hold together. So yeah, even on your chaotic mornings, even like in the chaos of your daily lives and everything that's going on, he's not just above creation. He is also the head of the church. He is, and through his blood, we are reconciled. So like he was there, he's always been there. He is this image. He will be there. He has guided our church. It is through him that we're reconciled. And yeah, and hitting this idea of the divine plan of like heaven, earth, you, me, all of us, all drawn through Jesus here. And then our gospel. Gospel comes from Luke chapter 10, 25 to 37. There was a scholar of the law who stood up to test him and said, "Teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" Jesus said to him, "What is written in the law? How do you read it?" He said, "You shall love your Lord your God with all your heart and all your being and all your strength and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself." He replied to him, "You have answered correctly. Do this and you will live." But because he wished to justify himself, he said to Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" Jesus replied, "A man fell victim to robbers as he went down from Jerusalem to Jericho. They stripped him and beat him and went off, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the road, but when he saw him, he passed by on the opposite side. Likewise, a Levite came to the place, and when he saw him, he passed by on the opposite side. But a Samaritan traveler who came upon him was moved with compassion at the sight. He approached the victim, poured oil and wine over his wounds, and bandaged them. Then he lifted him up on his own animal, took him to an inn, and cared for him. The next day he took out 2 silver coins, gave them to the innkeeper with instructions, "Take care of him. If you spend more than what I have given you, I shall repay you on my way back." Which of these 3, in your opinion, was the neighbor to the robber's victim? He answered, "The one who treated him with mercy." Jesus said to him, "Go and do likewise."
Amazing.
Hey, thanks.
Did Jeff get anything wrong, Father?
No,
No? Not?
No.
Good job.
everything was great.
All right. What are you preaching on this weekend?
What am I preaching on? I think
That's what we asked you.
I think Jeff kind of gave a good, teaser when he was talking about the first reading, because I do want to address something there, which is the idea that many of us have that there's this huge distance between us and holiness, that there's this, that conversion is a very, very, very long road, or sanctification is a very, 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 very long road. And in some sense that can be true. Like it is our whole life. We don't hit a moment where we stop converting, or we don't hit a moment where we can't grow in sanctification anymore. And so that is all true. At the same time, the other side of it is that it's not as far away as we think. Like the difference between being united to God and being far away from God is really just a decision. And so, we have, in terms of our own heart, do we turn our heart to the Lord? Even before the question of obedience, which is what you harped on, which I think is good because it makes sense because it's about the law. But even before that, just do we turn to him in relationship? Do we, and like the Catechism talks about prayer, quoting St. John Damascene, the first thing it says about prayer is a surge of the heart, a cast of the eyes towards heaven. And maybe we think that, prayer is something, I'm so far out of whack with my prayer life. I'm so far away from God. I've got to, climb a mountain to get back to him. Well, we just, we really just need to turn in our heart. And it may be that, we're real. I'm going to use a metaphor like maybe in our sin or in our worldliness or in our getting away from God, maybe we're like really, really dirty and it's going to take a long time to get clean. But getting in the bathtub is just a step. And like, it's just a step. And as soon as you get in the bathtub, you're on your way to being clean. And so heaven may be far away, but in another sense, heaven is all the way to heaven. And so just for us to make that turn is what God asks. That's that will delight God, and he will, once, all he needs is us to make that little turn, and then he supports us along the whole rest of the road, but just needs us to turn in our hearts to him. And so I was thinking about that first reading in terms of our union with God is closer than we think. I just read a book about Columba Marmion, or I looked at it again. That's a book I read a long time ago. I looked at it again.
About who?
Columba Marmion.
Is that a person or
he was? He's a.
Wait. Father Dufresne was
Yeah,
talking about him 2
Oh,
weeks
really?
ago.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's Marmion Abbey.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So he's.
You remember you
Yeah,
were
yeah,
like,
yeah,
I don't know
cool.
who that guy is.
Well,
And
then I
was
read
like,
that
actually
book. Yeah,
did.
yeah, no.
So you read it last week. That's good.
He's a blessed.
Just kidding. I didn't do that.
I don't think he's canonized to saint. I think it's Blessed Columba Marmion. But he has a book. It's like a collection of his letters, and it's called Union with God. And in the spiritual life, people, like, a very classic framework to talk about the spiritual life is to say that it begins with the way of purification, so like turning from sin, and then that's followed by the way of illumination, which is that we begin to see and know the Lord better, and then the final step is union. So it goes purification, illumination, union. But Marmion's thing was union has to be the first step, and then it is also the last step. But we'll never actually begin without already having the end. We only begin because we've turned to the Lord, and then we are in union with him the whole way to union. And I think that's really awesome. So that's a big theme. But then I was thinking about the gospel too, where that's looking more at the way we relate to other people, which is an aspect of holiness. But one thing that strikes me there, right, is that it's about how we treat our neighbor, and who is our neighbor. It's just the one who's in front of us, period. So sometimes we can think that holiness means, well, I've got to, the only way to do that is to, go be a missionary in Guatemala or in Calcutta or something. But that also is a lot closer than we think. Like that, not only God is closer than we think, but Christ and our neighbor is a lot closer than we think, and our ability, our opportunity to serve him is a lot closer than we think. That's, I think, the lesson of the gospel. So holiness is, you could say, closer than we think in terms of internally turning to the Lord in our heart, with our prayer, with our attention, with the gaze of our heart. And then holiness is closer than we think in the moral life, in the life of charity, because it's simply a matter of looking at the people that God puts in front of you and saying, how can I love them? How can I serve them? And so, I think that's what I want to maybe focus on in my homily, is just the life of holiness that we seek is a lot closer than we think.
Well, we may not have had a banger for the psalm, but I think we had a pretty banger homily there.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love this.
Uh-huh.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And it's like such an easy thing to process, but that's where I'm wondering, like, so when you're delivering this to the, like, what is the, like, what's the walk away, right? Like, so what is that first step for the congregation? What's that for? Like,
Get your rear into confession.
yeah. Line up.
Yeah.
Just, I'll be here for a few hours.
I mean, thank you for, I appreciate I asking for the practical thing, because that's usually where my homilies are the weakest.
Practicality.
Yeah. I I like people to come up with their own punchlines, but I realize that sometimes this is the question people have, is like, okay, but how?
It's like our whole podcast.
Yeah. Just change the title of that.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of the prayer, I do want to say there's a bit of like no try do, right? Like Yoda. It's like it's, you don't need a method, you just need to do it. But if we need a method, I think that there are very short prayers that we can always come back to if we find ourselves drifting. So, for example, the name of Jesus is, Peter Kreeft wrote a whole book. It's a great book, Prayer for Beginners. That's the main focus of it,
It's
is
a great book.
just the name of Jesus.
Yeah.
That we come back to the name of Jesus. Anytime that we're not sure how to pray, we come back to that name and say it. It's a prayer. It's a prayer. It's calling out to God. It's also a little sermon to ourselves, because the word simply means God saves. So we're not only speaking to God, asking Jesus for our help, we're also hearing what he wants to tell us, in miniature, in crystallized form. God saves. That's his name. So to say that word, to say that name, is a prayer. It's a two-way prayer. It's a prayer of it's a conversation.
It's like aloha.
Yeah, and there are other ones that people. I think these kinds of ways of praying that are like really quick and easy and accessible are really great. Besides the name of Jesus, like just to have a rosary that you carry, that when you feel you need to turn back in your heart quickly, to just have it, that you can grab it. It's like grabbing the hand of Mary, that she can bring you back to her son. What about, well, in the monastic tradition, like St. John Cassian, he really favors the line from the Psalm, "Oh God, come to my assistance, Lord, make haste to help. Lord, make haste to help me," which is how we start the Liturgy of the Hours. But you can say that phrase, as a prayer any time of day. That's what he recommends, and it brings you back to the liturgy. It sort of brings your heart into the union with the worship of the church, because that is the way all of our liturgy of the hour starts. So whoever's praying it all over the world, when you go to that phrase, "Oh God, come to my assistance, Lord, make haste to help me," you're joining the liturgy of the church that's going on. And that's very, reconnecting, recommuning. So those are some things that I would maybe look at as kind of practical ways, practical shortcuts, and practical shortcuts in terms of like the life of charity. I mean, I think one thing we can always start with is praying for somebody else, and we can do it very quickly. God bless them, like God bless. We see people, we see them every day. We say, God bless them. That is bringing us into charity just by saying that. And then, the thinking about, well, and just what needs do they present, that we can meet. I think this is one of the great things for your listeners, who are families, those listeners who are in families and stuff. Like these needs are constant, like in the life of a family. Constantly people are presenting themselves with like, I need help with my homework. I need, somebody needs to take out the trash. Like, I think that's one of the beautiful gifts of family life. And it's a way in which it's Christianity for dummies, because, because if you really just enter it and do it, like with a heart that is at least moderately generous, right? Like the very environment is going to work on your heart to make it more so, So I think that's, a real gift of being in marriage or being in a family is that part. I think Benedict the 16th kind of warned priests that, when you don't have that, you have to be careful that you don't become really egocentric in your life, because you don't have that constant thing in your home that is asking you to move out of yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you also, I mean, you said it relatively simply that it's just make a decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like in a lot of areas in life, when it comes to
Mm.
what you're doing, the choices that you make, whether you decide to sin or not to sin, like it's a decision, right?
It's a
You
decision.
decide to do that. You don't accidentally sin. You don't trip and fall and sin.
Right.
But like the devil does like twist and contort things and like want you to sin. But I think the more and more that, I mean, not to get like overly you know, metaphorical, but like the more you build that muscle, the easier it is to make those decisions.
Right. Yeah.
And being able to like go to confession quickly, you know, share that you made a bad decision and then get back on track is like you mentioned before, like the quickest path to heaven. Like
Right.
it is stepping in the bathtub, it is getting cleansed, and it is going back to the Lord.
Yeah.
But the sooner you shorten that cycle,
Uh-huh.
the quicker you're going to be on the path to holiness.
Yeah. For sure.
Yep. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
You got any more on that?
I wrote down here, like, I love when we get these, I think the readings this week and the gospel and like even the way you're presenting the homily is like preaching. Like it is one of those where it's like everybody's going to hear this and what your reaction should be. Well, duh.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
But I also I took some notes. Like this is good stuff.
Yeah. No, I also made a note here. Here you were quoting Colombo Marmion, and then you quoted, and Father Dufresne just 2 weeks ago, like quoted him, right? And then you quoted Peter Kreeft, and Father Anthony Armbruster quoted him in the homily I heard yesterday.
Okay.
So I feel like priests are like conspiring. Yeah, like you guys are all like had summer reading, and that's what you're doing. Like, I hope that Peter Kreeft's Prayer for Beginners wasn't on your guys' summer reading list, but it is a great book.
Why would you hope that it wasn't?
I would hope that you've moved beyond beginners at this point.
Oh no, that book is valuable at any time.
No, we used to have our seniors the high school seniors read it. It was really good.
That's good. That's awesome that you introduced them to that because it's a great book.
I mean, everything he writes is great.
There's another book kind of similar by a guy named Anthony Bloom called Beginning to Pray.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever read that?
Yeah,
that's a good one too. I really like that.
Yeah. I can't wait until in a week when somebody else references Anthony Bloom. I'm going to know that the conspiracy theory is on.
Those were, that Bloom book was like, when I read that in college, that really had a big impact on me.
Yeah.
All right.
Ready for some dumb questions?
Anytime.
All right. So many of them. Here's the thought I had. When we college rivalries, right? Like sports rivalries, and like people get so crazy passionate about like a college that they support. You guys, know anything about that growing up, Scott? Yeah, Scott's dad's an Alabama fan, and like, yeah. I'm wondering, do priests have that same, like, do you guys get that same energy about seminaries? I mean, I know you're at St. Meinrad, so it's like a little unique, but like, do seminarians get like, are they out there like roll Meinrad? Right, like, or just like, or is there like a rivalry against like, oh, you're a St. Mary's guy, boo?
Oh, wow.
I'm just wondering.
Certainly nothing that compares to SEC football. For one thing, like our sports teams are pretty like makeshift and ad hoc, and like
usually soccer.
If it's like the team is assembled for the game,
nothing. Yes, for people listening, there are seminary tournaments out there, and it is highly entertaining to see. Yeah, it's highly entertaining to see seminaries put teams together, and then when there happens to be one that has like a couple of really good athletes, and then it's like, oh my gosh, like they look like professionals out there.
We had a couple guys that, while they were at St. Meinrad, we were winning in every sport, and then they got ordained, and all of a sudden we're terrible. Well, it's not hard to figure out why. No, I don't. I think probably there's like a little bit of love of where guys went to seminary. So, you maybe have a little bit of ribbing each other, but nothing that I can think of that rivals regular.
Yeah, I figured not rivals that, but I'm gonna make a note for when we have a diocesan priest in here.
They might have a better answer to this question.
Because like
Yeah.
I think of it specifically like in the archdiocese now, all of our guys go to Minor.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But historically,
Yeah.
they were like very intentional about like splitting our guys up
Yeah.
amongst like 4 different
Somewhere
seminaries,
different
right?
places, yeah.
Which I get that process, but I wonder amongst those guys if there was like we've talked to some of the like Father Meyer and some of these priests before about like was it like if you got chosen to be the one that went to Rome, like was that like or Mundelein or
like
St. Mary's or
Rome or not Rome is probably the bigger rivalry than like whether you went to Mundelein or St. Meinrad or Joseph.
You don't really get a choice most of the time, right?
I don't know if you guys know this, but Father Tim studied in Rome. Did his graduate work there, and I remember him telling me that
Who's Father Tim?
One of the most embarrassing. I know he used to be on our podcast.
Yeah.
He said one of the most embarrassing moments he had was when like one of the first masses that they were celebrating while he was there, his stole, or not his stole, but his robe. What's the white robe? The
alb.
Yeah, his alb had Velcro on it, and he like peeled it off, and he said half the room spun around and looked at him, and were like, "Oh, DTs," and it turns out they call them all DTs, domestically trained priests, and it's like this mocking thing of like guys who were trained in the United States but then go over there. And he immediately went and had buttons installed on his alb. He said the second I pulled that Velcro, half the room just whipped around and was like, "Oh, these DTs."
That's funny.
I thought it was very funny. I had forgotten that when I wrote this joke, but apparently I think over there it does exist a little bit more. Maybe that's more pretentiousness than it is rivalry, but whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I got monk questions.
Ooh.
Okay.
Like I think I've shared this before. I've always been a little surprised that like everybody there has a job, but like monks don't do every job.
I'd say Minor.
Yeah. Or like anywhere. Like first time I went to I was like, oh, somebody else mows the grass. They've got a mowing guy. There's not just a monk riding around on a habit on a zero-turn Dixie chopper.
I'll bet the line would be out the door for guys who want that job.
Yeah. But like, are there jobs that you get assigned that like you would be excited about, and are there ones that you wouldn't be excited about?
What are the best jobs at the monastery, and what are the worst jobs?
I mean, sure.
I'm assuming there's the jobs, right? Like you get assigned jobs, like somebody's in charge of different things. Yeah.
So a lot of times when you're in formation is when you're getting like a lot of experiments.
Okay.
And so, you're
Amazing.
You're going to try this. You're going to try this. We're going to see what you like, see what you're good at. A lot of times with the guys in formation too, it's like there's just things that have to get done. And the novices have always rung bells. So you're going to be ringing bells, right? So, that's kind of a time when a lot of that happens. I think as you sort of get older and kind of move on, like you're going to be not for everybody, but certainly for a lot of us, it's like they're looking for sort of, not only what needs to happen, but what is going to be life-giving for you. And so, the monastery doesn't need, unhappy people. And so they want to, find things for guys that is going to be life-giving for them.
Yeah.
Of course, there are going to be some things that just have to be done. And so now one of the kind of games that we play in the monastery is to entertain ourselves, is or it's like, what is the like job that would ruin you? Like what, like,
what is the job somebody else does that if you had to do it,
if you had it, it would destroy you or like destroy St. Meinrad. Like, so,
what's yours?
Mine, MC.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That makes
like
sense.
I could not be the MC.
You just get lost so fast.
I teach sacramental theology, but I could not be the MC. Like I just can't. Like my brain is not great with like sequences and details, and so I'm really into the ideas behind things. But like for me to have to like multitask a whole bunch of concrete details and get the right sequences, No.
Again,
So,
this is so funny because 2 weeks ago, Father Dufresne was
Yeah,
on here,
exactly.
and all he was talking about is like, I love MCing.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
Like he was talking about how it's his
Well,
favorite thing to do. He would always rather MC than
he's a gifted man,
Yeah.
and I'd rather have him be the MC than me. So that's like mine would be. I would just not
That's
Brian
funny.
is
destroy the
MC.
seminary.
So
It would just destroy St.
it
Minor.
would just destroy St. Minor. I can't do it. So
There's another invalid mass.
yeah.
Great. Thanks,
Yeah.
Christian.
Yeah. So some guys are like, we would just never put him in as choir master, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then we have then there are other things. Flannery O'Connor has this great quote that the Catholic Church, where the wrong man for the job is the company motto. I mean, I've actually never been able to track that down, that it was actually her who said it, but I've heard it repeated a lot of times. And there is a little bit of that, like we had when I first came to.
Oh, the irony of like she didn't actually say it.
We had we did have a choir master who did a great job, but he was like half deaf. It's like, well, how does that work? And then, we had a guy who made our vestments who was colorblind. And then we had, we had a housekeeper who was pretty much totally blind. And so, you.
He thought the place looked great.
And when those are the realities, then you say, oh, well, this is where grace, we see grace coming through. So, yeah. Anyway.
That's it. That's good.
Okay.
We have a Lake Michigan Pope as declared by you.
Oh yeah.
I don't think we've talked to you since the Pope was.
We may have met, but we didn't really talk about the Pope.
Okay.
I think you had just had your big Pope podcast the week before.
Maybe.
So, yeah.
But I know you're very excited about this specifically. I know you've had a lot to say, and I like that you've declared him a Lake Michigan Pope. Like,
sure.
We're gonna expand. It's like Midwest Pope, and like people just keep expanding who gets to own him the most. But
yes, we're all
I just want to hear. I know you've just been very vocal on social media and having a lot of fun with like being excited about this. But you've also said some really like genuine like things. I just want to hear your thoughts on like, I don't know, what is that difference?
Well, I like so many people. I mean, I'm just I'm excited about having a new pope, and it doesn't matter where he's from. Like I think have a filial obligation to love the pope.
Yes,
I mean it's part of the fourth commandment to honor your father and your mother, and so we should all have joy, that we have a new pope. But there
is something different here.
Well, having an American is really exciting.
Yeah.